Tara, why did the art thief's van run out of gas as he drove away from the museum?
Say that one more time.
Why did the art thief's van run out of gas when he drove away from the museum?
I cannot begin to imagine.
Because he had no money to buy the gas, to make the van go.
Oh my gosh! Drop the mic. Oh, you brought it this morning. Oh my goodness.
You're welcome. Good morning, Daily Huddlers. Welcome to Wednesday, where we talk everything relationships and communication. And before we get started today, I have a couple of questions. I want to start with Sorrel. Sorrel, what time is it?
I'm in stitches, so I don't know if I can answer the question.
My work here is done.
But if I had Monet to buy a watch, the face of my watch says now. The time is now, Catherine.
That's right. The time is now. The only time there is. And Tara, question for you. Where are you and who are you going to hug today?
Oh, Catherine, I am in my favorite place right here and nowhere else. And today I am going to hug my wonderful husband as he recovers from knee surgery.
Oh, send him our best.
I will.
I love it. Right here, right now. And Gio, how are you? And what are you grateful for today?
I am the way I say I am. And I say today I am a reader. I am a reader today.
Okay.
And what am I grateful for? Oh my gosh, I am grateful for my nerd friends. I love them. I love you guys.
Nice. That's wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're excited today to have this conversation, and I am going to turn it over to my beautiful co-host, Tara, to kick us off.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, Daily Huddlers. We're so glad you're here. The best way to ignite your day. It's Wednesday, and on the Daily Huddle on Wednesdays, we talk all things communication and relationships. And communication, effective communication, as we know, builds better relationships, which builds better families, better communities, and better business. And we have a really exciting, juicy question around this topic today, and it comes from our guest, Deryl Sweeney. And the question is, what are the gifts and the dangers of, get this, showing up empty? I cannot wait to dig into this with Deryl Sweeney. Deryl is a business coach who works with high performers around all things business, life, and leadership. He's been an entrepreneur most of his life with a few stops in corporate America along the way. In his 20s, he was convinced he had it all figured out. His businesses were growing. He was featured in business journals and winning awards. And despite all of that, something always felt like it was missing. He realized he was chasing definitions of success that weren't truly his. After doing a lot of inner work to better understand his thoughts, patterns, and all of the ways he was sabotaging his pursuit of his own goals, he learned how to define what he really wanted to go after, and then he went after it and he went to achieve it. Today, he's helping other people do the exact same thing. Deryl is a coach who works with entrepreneurs, leaders, and high performers to define and achieve success in their businesses, in their teams, and for themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take this question to our good friend, our guest today, Deryl Sweeney. Talk to us about showing up empty.
Yeah. It's funny. I was smiling as I was listening to you read the introduction, because every time I hear it, it just takes me back, and it takes me on the journey. And I think about all of the ways that all the things that had to happen for me to be here, for me to be spending time with you guys talking about things like this. Showing up empty is a concept that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks recently. And I found myself talking about it more and more. And in short, I realized how often I show up full, I show up overfilled. So as a coach, right, it's one thing to show up with my clients, but I'm also, I will go in and I will facilitate day-long retreats with teams. I will facilitate workshops. I will have conversations. I will lead groups. I will do all these things. And I realize how much work, how much effort goes in to being prepared, right? To make sure that the people we spend time with are going to get value out of the time that we put in anything we lead. And I remember when I first started coaching, I used to be so focused on making sure the client got value, and early on, I would think about all the ways that, what can I do? What do I need to say? What do I need to exhibit to make sure somebody got value? And so for me personally, I have a habit of overstuffing things. And I found that the leaders, the clients that I work with do this a lot as well. And I'm willing to bet that you daily huddlers do the same thing. How many times are you asked to come into a space like this, right? And you think about, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What am I going to show? What is the PowerPoint going to be? What is the agenda going to look like? What are the activities we're going to exhibit? And we pour so much into the space. Have you ever stopped to ask why we do all that? Now, the simple answer is, well, we want to be prepared. We want to show well. We want to deliver that kind of value. And I think that's beautiful. And I think it's true for all of us. But I think there's something hidden underneath that, if we're really honest with ourselves, it's the insecurity. There's a fear that I have to have the perfect video to show. I have to have the perfect exercise. I have to have the perfect question or the perfect comment. You and I were just talking about how long it's taken me to be on the show. And what was my answer? Well, I didn't feel like I had the perfect question, right? I didn't feel like that I could come into a space like this and just trust myself that I can show up empty, and my path and my journey would be enough to drive a fun, powerful conversation like we're having right now. And so this idea of showing up empty is really about us stripping down this need to over prepare, overfill, and overstuff. Because let's be honest, I've built some killer agendas for meetings and events and everything else. And oftentimes found myself trying to hurry through one thing or figure out what I'm going to cut out because it's just overstuffed. And what I'm seeing now is that when we trust ourselves, when we can show up into spaces just a little more empty, then we create space for the genius of others to shine. We create space for whatever the way we get together and whatever any interaction is truly meant to be and going to be. And we don't have to force it to go in one direction or another. So often, even if it's a little outside of what we had planned, there's a beauty in showing up empty and let the interaction, let the connection, and let the results work themselves out. So that's the idea behind showing up empty, is let's just take a step back, take a breath, and figure out how to come into spaces, come into groups, come into the ways we serve clients and customers, come into our homes with our families, with our spouses, with our kids, just a little more empty, and create some space for beautiful things to just unfold, and trust in ourselves and the space we've created together.
As I listen to you share this, I'll tell you what's popping into my head. And you've seen me do this before. Got everything planned, got all this great information, and then we start running out of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do something that I coach every one of my clients not to do, which is I say to folks, the way you say things is so much more powerful than what you're actually saying. But what have I done? Start reading really fast. Oh, I want y'all to see this. You got to hear this. You got to get that. And then you just start piling things in, and it always fails. So help us with the balance. I mean, we've got to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be confident. We've got to have some great content. But how do we create that space and still feel confident?
Yeah. And you bring up, I think, a really integral part of this. And first, I want to touch on a distinction, because I think there's nuance, and I think there's gold in the distinctions. There's gold in nuance. Showing up empty is not about showing up prepared. Right? So when clients hire me and bring me in to do things, it's not about, well, I'm not going to think about what I'm going to say. I'm not going to prepare anything. There's no goals, no notes. It's just me for all it is. And I show up and say, what do you want to talk about? That's not what showing up empty is about. It's about that moment that you just highlighted. How in that moment when you've got a group, and you're right, I've been in your courses, I've seen you do what you do, and our conversations will go off on a tangent, or somebody will bring up something that wasn't a part of a script. Right? What is it in us? Right? And we see that thought of, okay, this was supposed to have ended 3 minutes ago, or I'm running out of time, or it's not going, I didn't expect it to go this way. Right? Can we catch those emotions that come up, that anxious, that nervous energy that comes up, and sit back and remind ourselves that even if it's not going the exact way I planned it out in my head, there's magic here and there's beauty here if I let it happen. Right? And be both with the room, in control of the room, but have a loose kind of set of hands on the reins so that the goal that is naturally coming, right? So often I think as facilitators, coaches, leaders, we show up and we think we have to be the guy, we have to be the girl, we have to be the expert on stage. Sometimes showing up empty is taking a step back and letting the genius of the people we're spending time with come forth, because that collective genius, when it's all coming out, one, it lessens our burden, right? I've seen you both when we try to guide something in a certain way and when we let go and let things just happen naturally. And so often there's a beauty in what unfolds when we don't try to redirect it back the way we believe it is supposed to be.
I literally just got a chill hearing you talk about collective genius. You're so right. It makes us nervous that we lose control, especially when people are relying on us. Not only have they paid us money, but I'm always more sensitive to that fact that people have devoted their time and they're trusting me to make the most from it. I tell you what, I would love to hear how this mentality was first inspired within you.
Yeah. I love that you asked that question, because so I'm a coach. I work with clients, I work with teams, and I have a coach. I've hired my own coach, and my coach happens to be based over in England. And as a part of our coaching package, I'm engaged with this guy for a year. His name's Ankush. And as a part of the work we do together, Ankush does a powerful men's retreat twice a year. So in October, I flew over to England for this 6-day retreat with 14 other men that I've never met. Right? They came from all kinds of countries. There were people from Brazil. There were people from England. There were people from Ireland and Germany. There were people from Slovakia. There were people from the United States and Canada. So we all come together, seemingly strangers. And I've paid a lot of money. I've taken, 10 days to travel to Europe out of my business. And I'm excited. I don't know exactly what I'm excited for, but I can't wait to get all that this thing is about to be. And is really focused on personal growth and development. And I remember the very first day we go in there, and as you can imagine, and as most facilitators would, Ankush stood and he said, I want you guys to reflect on what you want to get out of our time together. And I thought to myself, so he gave us time to do that, and we did it. And then, like we've all done, I thought we're going to go around the room and talk about what we want to get. And I watched Ankush go up to the board, and one of the guys raised his hand, and he said, I want to talk about speaking my full truth. And I thought, that's cool. And now I think we're just going to go and start talking. Well, we don't do that. Ankush goes and he sits down. There's literally one thing on the board, and we spent the next 3 hours talking about speaking your full truth. There was no video to show. There was no direction it was going. There was no preset plan of what that morning was going to be. Now, I had to reel it in, because as the conversation, I'm getting a ton out of the conversation, but I'm also seeing the moment where Ankush stops and he says, should we break for lunch? And my mind goes crazy, because I'm thinking, I've paid all this money, I've invested all this time. There's one thing on the board and we're halfway through the first day. Like, this feels insane to me. I'm like, this feels insane to me. And right as I'm having the insane thought, he says, do you guys want to take 2 hours? When's the last time you took a 2-hour lunch in a business retreat or setting? And I watched as those thoughts came, and this happened throughout the week. But by the end of the week, we had been slowed down. And that was a big point of this, to slow down. What ended up happening, we come back from lunch. He asked, did anybody think of anything while you were at lunch? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're talking about the exact same thing we talked about before lunch. And then he has us read a passage. So he pulls out a passage. So I'm thinking, finally, we're going to transition. He pulls out a passage, and he has the guy that raised his hands, he has him read it. And I'm like, huh, that was cool. Yeah, I got something out of that. And I think we're going to talk about it, because that's what you do after you read a 3-paragraph passage out loud to a room. Instead, he says, who else wants to read the passage? And then he says, who else wants to read the passage? And we read the same 3 paragraphs 6 times. Now, again, the second time I didn't hear any of it. The third time, again, I'm wondering, how much money did I pay? How much time did I invest? How much did I pour into this? And I was struggling. Once I let those thoughts drop and go, I was able to hear it the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. And I heard things in that passage that I didn't hear the first time. I saw gold underneath that I wouldn't have heard had we just read it and talked about it. See, we're in a culture where it's always go, 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 go. What's the next thing? How much can I stuff in here? How much can I do? And I watched for 6 days as Ankush trusted himself. He built a whole retreat with a ton of intentionality. The steps this man took to create the community we had, we spent 6 months together virtually leading up to this, to create a room full of people that trusted each other, knew each other, and could be vulnerable with each other. But when it came down to be the coach on stage, to be the facilitator and the expert, he simply showed up, asked the room what we wanted to talk about, dug in, helped us explore, in the moment was able to come up with resources and audios to listen to, and navigated a 6-day retreat that wasn't based on what he thought we should talk about, but let us and our inner genius, let our inner needs drive how things went. He trusted himself to show up empty and create and hold this container, which allowed each and every man on this retreat to get everything they wanted and needed to get out of our time there. That's what sparked all this for me.
I feel like my heart is like actually literally singing right now. I have to tell you, Deryl, that I've known you a while, and I can feel this transformation in you. I can truly, truly feel it. But I want you to share with us, when we embrace this mindset of showing up empty and letting the collective genius blossom, tell me how this mindset has transformed you as a man and your work.
Yeah. Do we have any judgers in the room? Anybody who carries a lot of judgment and is really quick to throw that out there?
Would be me.
You know, I call Gio the goat. He will keep you on the edge of your seat with laughter and joy. So yes,
I love it.
I
love it.
Gio.
You know, I think when you talk about the transformation, some of the things that I've seen recently, I've always been a guy who's been helpful. I've really strived on helping others. And for a long time, I thought it was because I was such a great guy, right? And as you get older and you see things for what they are, I realize how much I've been trying to manipulate the way people see me, how much I'm trying to project the image of a good coach, a good father, a good husband, because I didn't see it and believe it about myself. And so when we show up filled, when we show up over stuff, when we lean on all these crutches and videos and all the other stuff that we bring in, a lot of times we're doing it because we don't believe we're enough. So maybe, just maybe, if we can bring in enough other stuff, they won't see it. They won't see me. And so part of my own transformation has been all the time that I've spent projecting who I thought you guys wanted to see, who you guys would hire as a coach, who you guys would trust and believe was good enough. And what I'm starting to see is that all of the things I've been projecting, I truly already am. So my transformation went from a guy who would do things to project what a good father does, what a good husband does, what a good coach does, what a good partner does. Now I can drop that. I see me for me. because what I was hiding, what I was so afraid that you all wouldn't see, I now understand that it was never really me in the first place, right? It was this flawed, unworthy version of me that I thought was real, but it's never real. So part of the ability to show up empty means we have to really tap into that piece of ourselves that knows we're good enough, that knows we're already worthy, we're already valuable. And the people that have hired us, the people that have brought us in, the people that have trusted us have done so not by accident, but because they see us. And if we can slow down, if we can stop trying to fool the people out there and just be, then they're going to get everything. They're going to get all of you, right? And that comes with, of course, you're going to prepare slides. Of course, you're going to prepare for whatever talk you're going to do, whatever you're going to do, right? But you're doing it not to fool them, not to project something you're not. You're just truly able to be. And that way, when it goes off the rails, when it goes in a direction you didn't think it would go, when people come up and ask a question that has you stumped and unsure, you can actually say, I'm stumped and unsure. Let's talk about it, and trust that it's going to go wherever you need to go. So part of this transformation was a lot about me understanding I am a great father. I'm an extraordinary father. I'm an extraordinary husband, and I'm a damn good coach, right? It took a while for me to see it. Thankfully, a lot of other people saw before me, but that's been the biggest shift and what allows me to show up in a way that I don't have to pretend anymore.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Brene Deryl Sweeney Brown. That was a beautiful example of vulnerability, and what a powerful story. I was going to ask you what tip you would give people to move into this space, but I think I heard it from you, and I don't want us to run out of time. So I really want to open up the microphone to Catherine Sable, my co-host, because you are speaking her language, and see what thoughts she might have.
Well, it's funny. Thank you so much, Deryl. I'm mesmerized, and I just can see how this can work. And my question really is Tara's question. It is how, because I hear you on the other side of now understanding and knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you step over into that space? How do you step into knowing who you are so that you can do this?
It's the work. You know, I mean, it's the work. And look, I
There's
forget.
no easy answer. There's no magic pill. What?
That's just it. So I forget, right? I forget. And the real key, I think, is starting to understand how our mind works. A lot of my clients hire me for business reasons. You know, I want to grow the company. I want to increase revenue. I want more sales. I want a better culture. I want to be a better leader. Most of them will say, hey, we did the thing I hired you to do, but the real value is you help me understand how my mind works. And our mind is capable of sabotaging us in so many ways. But our mind can also be our greatest asset, our thoughts, to understand our thinking, to understand that it comes from inside of us and not outside of us, right? We so often point to things outside of us. To start to understand the way our thinking works and understand that we choose the thoughts that we give power to and don't, and we start to see and be aware, that opens up all of this, right? So that opens up that path to truly know yourself. When the thought pops up of I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not ready, right? We can see that thought and ask ourselves, is that really true? And one of the phrases I like is, I love saying, I want to be a lover of reality, because we have so many thoughts that just aren't true, but we treat them as true. We treat them as fact, but they're just thoughts. So sometimes we have to learn to test those thoughts, ask, is that really true? Come back to the truth and then proceed from there.
I love that. Thank you so much. And one play on that too is that true for everyone? I've heard that said before, because we can make up, well, yeah, it is true. I'm not that great of a mom, or I'm not that great of, but is that true for everyone? Because you know that there's going to be somebody. Thank you for that. Because I heard you say that in your retreat with Ankush. You said, I watched those thoughts, and once I let them drop, that's when you were able to step forward.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I want to hear from Gio and see what he has to say about this. Come on, Gio.
Yes, thank you. This was fascinating, Deryl. You are a fascinating human being. One of the things that I was truly present in the conversation was in the way in which you were being today. There was the experience of your own emptiness, right? as you were showing up with what you were saying. And my experience of myself was perhaps the way you expressed your experience was at the beginning of your retreat, when it was like, where the hell is this going? Why are you giving us 2 hours lunches? I need value right now. And so my experience of you right now was one in which I was able to hear my own thoughts, my own judgment. And in some way, I was able to reset from being my judgment and my own thoughts and actually being with you, the human being that you are. So I thought you were brilliant. I don't have really a question. I just wanted to acknowledge who you are right now.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to say, it was, this is kind of the water I swim in. This is the pool I wake up in the morning every day, and what you are pointing to. And what I was kind of saying, my automatic reaction to the conversation was, gosh, it has taken me 15 years of preparation to get to not being prepared, being comfortable.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this, could I have done it 15 years ago? Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Given how much noise there was, right? Anyway, I'm going to stop there.
No, I think it's a beautiful observation, because, awareness is the work, and understanding who we're, it's one of my favorite questions for clients. It's so often we jump straight to, what do we have to do? What are we doing? And I think the question of who are we being, or who do I have to be, is a beautiful one, right? And sometimes when you talk about 15 years of work, well, it's the same thing Catherine pointed to. It's because we have to understand who we are. We don't know who we are. And it's hard to show up empty when we're so busy trying to figure out who they want us to be, that we don't have any space to just be who we were meant to be, who we already are, the version of ourselves that's already enough and was born enough. So I think for all of us, it's a journey. I don't believe this is a snap your fingers and it just changes. And it will continue to shift for me. It'll continue to shift for all of us. It's a journey. That's beautifully said.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear from Sorrel too. Thank you all.
Deryl, thank you for being here, man. I'm taken to this space in this conversation where I'm discovering for myself that showing up empty is actually showing up with the willingness to acknowledge that I'm not empty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing for myself as you're speaking that I am never empty.
Yeah.
And then in the acknowledgement of not being empty that you took me through, like the acknowledgement itself creates the space to be empty.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm being with that, the courage that it takes, even when I'm in my own little cocoon, nobody's watching, right?
Yeah.
To actually quit fooling myself.
Yeah.
And say, oh, look, you're still making sure your head is just the right way, so you can appear the right way. And I'm discovering that's not appearing the right way for others. It's appearing the right way for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And from that place, there's so much value you're able to provide, and I think that's the beauty and the intricacy of this idea of empty. Because some people say empty, and it's like, wait a minute. And it's just that, right? We can only show up empty because we're able to see and acknowledge the fullness of all that we are.
Yeah.
I don't know that it works any other way. So Sorrel, I love that.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, we're right up on time, and I do want to ask you for one final thought for our listeners. But before I do that, I want to share what really struck me, something beautiful that you said that I think could potentially, it's a lesson for me, and hopefully it's a lesson for all. And it was something small that you said. You said, sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
And that makes me think, first, it takes me to my meditation practice, which is constantly a challenge for me, but my brain keeps going with the monkeys and I keep coming back to the light and I suck and I just keep working at it. But I think we all forget.
Yep.
That doesn't mean we're not capable. It means we can just keep working harder at it and keep getting better and stronger in that really, really authentic place. So thank you for that message. We are right at 9:30, but I would love to hear one last word, and then we have something to share for sure.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what you said, because we hear a lot about self-care. We hear a lot about grace. I asked you all the question about judgers earlier, right? And for us judgers out there, there's nobody we judge more harshly than ourselves. And I have shifted my own internal dialogue. I have shifted the way that I talk to myself. And when I catch myself caught out in my thinking, when I catch myself caught out that, my kids are taking too long to get out the door, or the client didn't show up the way I wanted them to, or, my wife said something and it was just, when I get caught out in my thinking and I react in a way and I'm being in a way that I don't want to be, I just pull myself back and I say, oh, I forgot again. And there's an acknowledgement and a knowing that I'm going to forget for the rest of my life. And there's a beauty in that. And that's, that allows us to just remind ourselves, gently nudge ourselves back and just be. So I think this idea of showing up empty, there are going to be places where I don't, there are going to be places I forget. I'm going to overstuff things and overfill things and do all that all over again. I'm going to forget. And it is in being able to acknowledge and see that forgetting, pull myself back and allow that emptiness to reappear, allow me to show up and get back to the being that is going to create whatever magic is available in whatever container we find ourselves in.
Thank you seems like tiny words for this message. And I do want to share the timing of this. It is perfection, because a week from this Saturday, you may have seen on June 18th from 2 to 5 in Atlanta, right in Buckhead, we have a live Daily Huddle event. And if this conversation, if anyone is listening to this, if this inspired you, I cannot encourage you enough to be with us, because we do have an agenda planned. We have a ton of information with the brilliant Dr. Nidhi Gupta, as she will guide us into some tactics on how to truly experience just what you're talking about, showing up fully ourselves, walking away from those wireless mobile devices, enriching relationships and enriching our lives. There's a live stream opportunity. And there's also, I would encourage you, if you're in the Atlanta area, be with us on June 18th from 2 to 5. And the information is in the chat. I'm going to close us out though with our beautiful 7 tenets from Patty Dabrowski. And a big thank you to you, Deryl. You inspire these in me. And the top one, the number one always is love. Don't forget about love. Lead with love. Let it pour out of you and laugh. Throw your head back and let your laughter go, which will help you to stress less. And in this vein, taking care of your body, get your sleep. Sleep is the power for healing. Eat more plants. They will take good care of you. Give with all your might. Unleash generosity. And of course, Catherine's favorite, move that body, move what your mama gave you. Thank you, Daily Huddlers. This has been the most inspiring conversation. I can't wait to see where today takes you.
Thank you, Deryl. Thank you, Daily Huddle family.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys for having me.